Good morning, everyone. In this inquiry now, we are going into seeing what it takes in order to really give space. We need to give space to our clients, and there are many factors what we can take care of. However, the internal factors of our identity, our ego, being without our awareness, busy controlling the space, occupying the space, this reduces the space for the client. So if you are, like me, really looking for mastering, creating the coaching space, then we need to take a good look at the unconscious strategies of our identity, our ego, to control space. And for that, you also can follow in the workbook on page 103. So the first thing what I want you to take a look at is, where do you experience that your geographical seat of your personality, identity, ego is geographically? See, the ego is a ruler, and every ruler has a fortress, a point, a center. So I'm asking you now to share or to look with me, where is the geographical position of your ego? Now, obviously, it's not in your index finger, right? Because if you, God forbid, would lose your index finger, then you still would feel I. So the I feeling, the ego feeling would not be gone. So let's do a hypothetical experiment. Now, if you were, just take it hypothetically, please, not images. If you were to lose your lower body, would you still have a sense of being you? Yes. If it would come up to here, so only the head is left of you, would you still feel you? Yes. If it comes up to here, it gets kind of tight, right? So let's say only that part is left of you. Yeah? It's tight, but still it's you. Imagine the half of the head in the back is gone. Okay, all right. And this, so we can trace it down, and where it comes to is that your sense of where you are, you, is 3 centimeters behind the root of your nose. And that is also researched because our sense of identity is in the prefrontal cortex of the brain, which is the part here. That's the seat. That's the Gestapo of the brain, right? As they call it. And from there, you control your environment. You monitor it. The ego, like a radar on a ship, is all the time, 360 degrees, checking if the territory is safe. Right? You know, for example, when you buy groceries and you're queuing up in a line, and then somebody is lining up behind you, and you suddenly feel that they are too close to you, like that's your personal energy field, that's your personal space, your territory. You feel uncomfortable because they're getting too close and they don't have a exclusive access to you. Yeah, so that's what I mean. And we all have this territory. Now, I just want to use a moment to invite one of you to do a little demonstration with me. Anybody raising their hand, it's not going to be embarrassing. It doesn't take long. It doesn't require anything from you. You know, who's playing with me?
Vanilla.
Okay. Okay, Vanilla. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move back like this, and you tell me when you feel 100% non-intruded by my presence.
Now.
Okay, I will come closer now, step by step, and you tell me when you feel that I'm entering your space, okay?
Now.
Okay, so let's continue. I'm coming closer, and you tell me then when it gets a little bit uncomfortable.
Now.
Very good, very good. Okay. So there are certain levels, and thanks for playing. There are certain levels where we can actually experience that someone is intruding into our space. And some people, of course, have exclusive access. Our spouse, our children, our parents, more or less, friends. So there is this, but with that space, with that monitoring, what's behind that? Besides an evolutionary strategy to alarm you if there is any danger for your survival. That's clear in the brain, that's our system, okay? But besides that, it's our identity, our sense of self that is consistently worried that anybody could come in and take over your control. In other words, they come into your fortress, take your throne, and sit there, right? And you lose control over your territory. And that worry is deep-seated, 24 hours present. And out of that, we are consistently taking space, even if we are silent, even if we reduce our speaking, our, we are not loudly dressed and all the rest of it, still, it's taking space. Have you ever experienced a person not speaking, but their ego fills the room? Right? And there's a big difference between your light is filling the room or your ego is filling the room. When your light is filling the room, then it's non-offensive, it's actually attractive. But when your ego is filling the room, then it's repulsive. It creates resistance and opposition. So this monitoring, this keeping control can be experienced in any moment when there is a movement towards intimacy. Now, you may have experienced, if you were aware, that when you are with your beloved, when you're with a partner, you fully trust. So in the act of being together and sharing intimacy, doesn't need to be necessarily sexual, but definitely there. Let's say you have eye contact. And in that eye contact, really there's a desire from your heart to melt, to become one with the other. And you give permission to it. You really want that unification. So you completely open up to your ability. You let the other one in. You are eye gazing. And then there comes a stop sign. But that wasn't your intention. That didn't come from you. That's not a conscious choice. There comes a stop sign. Have you ever experienced that? Yeah. That stop sign suddenly is coming in where the ego says, not 1 inch further from here. To overcome that, for example, when you have an orgasm, then for a moment, the stimulation and the energy created is overriding that impulse. You are in the space of timelessness, transparency, oneness, movement, you name it. But then, as we all know, very soon, it's over. This oneness is over. Then you are back in you here, having that experience, and your partner next to you. the separation is kicking in again, because it's a hardwired strategy of the ego. And it's all in the service of avoiding to be gotten. Avoiding to be gotten. The ego doesn't want anyone to get you. It sacrifices everything, including your body, in order to keep control and not to be gotten. This is subtle. It really comes to the space where you or your ego is putting the border barn down, saying, okay, that's it. And you have no control over it because you're not conscious of it. And we're bringing it now all fully to the level of being conscious of it. The ego's greatest fear is losing control. That's it. That's the greatest fear. Because when the ego loses control, the next step is it's afraid to disappear. It's afraid to be dissolved. And because you are not familiar with the unknown, that creates fear. You don't know what's going to be next if you fully surrender. Because you don't have a track history where you have a lot of experience in being surrendered and knowing that life will take care of you in far better ways than your ego ever could do. So, when you're in that space, let's say for a moment you are in the unison. What you experience is timelessness and transparency. Timelessness and transparency. Suddenly the experience of time is kind of disappearing. It's expanding. The space is expanding. And you become transparent. In other words, life can move through you without you being a stance of controlling what's happening at the moment. I'm sure when you, for example, engage in sport, let's say you play tennis. So in the beginning, there is, I play tennis. Yeah. So look at the separation. I play tennis. And you may play tennis very, very good. Masterful even. But there's no virtue. There's no magic in it. Then if you really practice, let's say there's a moment where suddenly you disappear and what's happening is tennis playing. It's a verb, not a noun anymore. Not you playing tennis. It's tennis playing. Like in the monastery, rice eating, not I eat rice. In lovemaking, it's lovemaking, not I make love. When you play a musical instrument and you have that moment, then there's just piano playing. And it's magic because it's not you anymore, it's something greater that is playing. People are asking you after your concert, wow, that was amazing. How did you do that? And you can't answer because you weren't there. You need to be there as an awareness of identity in order to record what's going on, because that's part of keeping control. So in your best moments, when you're really present, you're not there. Isn't that funny? Paradox. Right? Because then you're shifting from you having an experience to a presence of experiencing. You're part of the movement from moment to moment without stopping the movement by you retreating into having an experience. But you are fully experiencing. Yeah. Try to let that just land without the need to fully understand it. So don't go into your mind, just receive it and see what's happening in your awareness. So this transparency, when you become transparent, We, for example, have it in our assisting teams in creative consciousness. When you assist, then one of the highest virtues for you to thrive to is to become transparent, so that your presence doesn't take space. And that doesn't come easy, because the ego is all about survival and is all about control. So when you are reducing the control, ultimately giving it up, then what becomes present is your availability. You become available. This availability creates in others a sense of you are present and you are not in any way an offensive energy with an agenda or a stance that is controlling the environment, whether somebody is intruding or not. You're just present with your availability. And that is absolutely magnificent. This is the ultimate state you can be in as a coach. You're available for your client. This availability doesn't come by you not speaking. Silence is not the absence of words. Silence is a state of being, the absence of the ego. But for this, we need to walk a little bit into that journey, or a lot, depending on our journey. So when you are in the state of protecting your fortress, protecting your environment, protecting your territory, then you're also paying a price. You're paying a price for separation. And the price is the feeling of loneliness. You can be with 1,000 people, you can be with people who love you. It doesn't mean that this is going away. As long as you're keeping control with your ego, you will experience loneliness. It's that strange phenomenon that you have people so close to you and you still feel lonely. And that over decades leads often into depression, leads often into resignation, sometimes even to the degree of being suicidal. It all starts with the unconscious act of separating yourself from the whole. See, the moment you say I, this very moment you say also not I. Yeah, you can't say I without at the same moment non-voluntarily saying not I. So the sense of I and being attached to that is creating the world of not I. And this is the foundation for suffering. No matter what culture, no matter what race, no matter what age, no matter what social status you have, no matter where you live, doesn't matter. It's for every human being the same act. That's a very high price to pay. So let's see now, what are the unconscious, or sometimes maybe even conscious, strategies of the ego to occupy the territory so that nobody can occupy you. So what is the best defense? Attack, right? That's a military strategy. So your ego knows if it's successful in dominating or occupying the space of others, then the chances that it gets occupied are very little. So there are particular strategies that human beings are doing in order to occupy the territory. Yeah. So I'm going to go through a couple of those strategies. Strategy number one is playing stupid. Now, how does that work? Okay, so let's say you're on a table in a meeting and there's a team leader. So it's not you by the title and by your position having the right to occupy the space. So you're just a team member, not the leader. So your ego gets very worried, because if you are surrendering 100% to the meeting and you don't have the authority to lead, then there's not much left of you. So your ego is playing a little bit stupid, meaning that you say, I quite didn't understand that. This very moment, you're interrupting the meeting and the attention flows to you. That means your ego gets a confirmation that you're still there. You say, I didn't quite understand that. Could you give me an example? Right? Or sorry, I was busy. Can you say that again? So you can play very interested. You can be very engaged in your role. But the strategy is so that you get a fix of their attention that confirms the existence of your ego. One thing people do. If everybody is in action in the meeting and you're just slow, that's also a good strategy. Just be slower than the others. While everybody already got it, you're still thinking. So silently, everybody's waiting for you. Yeah? And here you are, you get this nice attention, which is the energy of the ego needing to be validated in its existence. Another strategy, marking your territory. And it's like in the animal world, you mark your territory so that everybody knows you have been there. So let's say it's the end of the work day and everybody left, except the supervisor is just, for whatever reason, checking the rooms, comes in to your room or a room where you have been. Your desk is not impeccable. There's something not taken care of. That means you left in the incompletion of your space a mark. You know, in the animal world, they do like, they spray, and you have your particular way to do that. You know, you may leave a cup over there, you may not empty your waste paper basket or whatever is doing, but you make sure that if anybody checks, they know you have been there. If you were to leave your environment 100% impeccable, you would have been transparent. You leave your workspace transparent, and that means nobody can just by force know that you have been there. So the ego rather leaves marks. My beloved teacher, Jiddu Krishnamurti, he always pointed out to that principle: live like the flight of an eagle. The flight of an eagle, leaving no traces. Act, but don't leave traces. He wrote a whole book on that. Magnificent. Strategy number 3, withholding your participation. Withholding your participation. Yeah, be in the game, but never fully. So always leave something undone or uncommitted. So keep them lukewarm, of course, right? So make sure that they know you are a member, but then don't play 100%. Let them always feel that you have still something to give. So they remain with their attention on you, because if you were to give 100% now, they would be so complete, they forget about you because you're transparent. So you don't give 100%, not in your relationship, not at the workplace, nowhere, basically. I hardly know anyone who is giving 100%, except sometimes by accident. So not giving 100% is one of the best strategies to keep everyone in your life wondering, when will you give what you actually got? When will you show up, putting all your 4 aces on the table and say, what else can I give? People don't live like that. Yeah, they put 1 ace on the table, maybe 2. That's already a lot. maybe 3, but the rest they keep here, saving it for the day, whenever that will be. Also, a withholding strategy is leaving things undone. Yeah, so just don't get back with the email you promised on time. Immediately, someone is thinking of you because they were expecting you to get back on time, or making an appointment. It's the same thing. You all know that. Let's say you have an appointment at 10 o'clock tomorrow with somebody and they don't show up. Aren't you thinking about them? Yes, you are. You give them a lot of attention. And that's what their ego wants. It wants to be recognized. It wants to be verified. In your absence, so missing in action, you are validated in your existence as an ego. So just break rules. Validation instant. Don't be in integrity with your promises. Validation instant. All that mess people create is simply for the reason of the need of their ego to get a verification for the existence. So don't be impeccable. Don't act in integrity, or just come 1 minute late. 30 seconds late, it doesn't matter. The moment the time is ticking, and if you have done that a couple of times, what happens is that if you're not showing up at 9:59, the others are already wondering whether you will be on time this time. Yeah, it's that subtle. But I'm sure as I speak, you can verify it by your own experience with other human beings that that is what's happening out there. So if you leave people incomplete, you are subtly controlling them. Get that. If you leave people incomplete, you are controlling them. It's a strategy. And there might be more, but I want to move on. Now coming to the part, let's say your attack strategy was not successful. That means somebody has already entered your territory. So they are close. Remember the exercise? Yeah, now they are in. They're not sitting on your throne yet, but they are in. Then what? Well, there are also strategies to prevent further damage. For example, just don't commit. Yeah, intention is okay, wanting is okay. The assurance that you will try your best is okay, but don't commit, because a commitment is a threat to you. A commitment dominates your ego. A plan dominates your ego by you having promised to deliver on it. So people give their word, they make promises, and then their own ego is breaking those promises for the simple reason in order to keep controlling its own host, you, in order to keep dominating the space. Because if a commitment becomes more important than your ego, in other words, if creation becomes more important than your reactions, that means that your ego is losing control. Your ego is being dominated by your own promises. How crazy is that? But it happens all the time. People break their word in order to get an illusionary sense of freedom. That freedom is nothing but letting the ego again feel it dominates the space. That's all what freedom is for people. To be safe so nobody can dominate you. Nobody can ever get you. We are willing to sacrifice relationships for that. We are willing to sacrifice our potential for that. We are willing to sacrifice our body for that. And we, on top of all of that, we pay the price of loneliness. That's how paradoxically tragic the whole thing is. Another strategy to manage damage control, if you already have been occupied, is have a plan B. Have a plan B, have a backdoor. So let's say you enter a relationship. Let's say you opened up the doors too much. Now the other is in your space. All right, so good news, but your ego is not really deleting those phone numbers, right? I mean, you never know how things work out. You keep those numbers. And you don't delete the Facebook account. I'm making colorful points, but you can translate what I mean. Right? You keep these backdoors because you never know, or you are not really cleaning it up and risking that you are rejected. So you play your game. You play. You know what I mean by backdoors. Options. Now just imagine you would close all backdoors. Imagine to be in your relationship 100%, not 99, water only boils at 100, 100%. What you can expect when you play 100% is that you get 100%. If you give 100%, you get 100%. That is the definition of fulfillment, fully filled. Not 99%, 100. I promise you, if you put it to the test, the magic of life happens when you move from 99 to 100. It's just 1%. You think it's big from 30 to 99? No, it's not. Not in comparison to 99 to 100. 99 to 100 is going beyond your ego. That is surrender. Then the gates for the greater whole are open. A greater intelligence, the holistic intelligence, is flooding through you. Support comes. The law of attraction opens up because you are now available. All these energies and these spiritual principles and laws are suddenly starting to become a reality, manifesting in your life the moment you are in life 100%. It's about the choice to be alive. And you have no idea how many people who are vital, who are playing and all the rest of it, are still having not ever chosen to be alive 100%. It's a very deep-rooted resistance to being fully alive. And that resistance to being fully alive on the level I'm speaking about comes from the ego not wanting life to dominate. The ego wants to dominate life. And that's why the ego always tries to put the great life into its small box of the blueprint how life should be. How can that work? It doesn't, but everybody is still trying to manipulate life so it fits into their particular small box of expectations, how things should and should not be. So the third way of damage control, once you are already occupied, is resistance. If you are just resisting, then the energy of resistance keeps you in the illusion of remaining in control. So you never, even if you say yes, you never mean it 100%. When you say no, you never mean it 100%. Saying something and not meaning it is resistance. It's a strategy. To live by saying what you mean and meaning what you say, that is a very high level of integrity. So, as there is no half pregnant, what is, and what is not. Can you live like that? Can you say yes 100%? So a yes to a yes 100%, and the no, same thing, 100% yes to the no, but not in between. Not in between. This is a way of life. I just can speak about it and share my expression with it, and maybe something in you resonates. So if you don't live like that, it means you're saving it. You're saving it. And then on your tombstone will be written, saved it. Bravo, your legacy, you saved it. For most people, that's what should be on their tombstone, saved it. Well, sad, isn't it? It's like having those wonderful, or that one particular, most magnificent dress in your wardrobe, but you never wear it. Until one day, of course, when Prince Charming comes around, to rescue you from your boarding living room. Then you will wear it. But not now, not today, not just in between the years. There's no anniversary, there's no birthday. Why should you wear your best self? Why should you live today as it would be the last day in your life? So save it. Some people think, but if I live like that, Mark, then it costs me so much energy. You have no idea. Yeah? Otherwise, you wouldn't say that. Because when you are opening up to 100%, that means life energy is now able to flow through you unhindered. And do not tell me that life energy is limited. It's not. It's not. When you open up completely, you are having so much energy, you only can give it away, can give it away, can give it away, because you are in a state of abundance. Floating, floating, floating. There's only energy waste in resistance. That's the one energy that kills the energy. If you are not having energy, it's not because there's no energy. It's not because you worked hard. It's not because you ate the wrong thing and all that bullshit. No, it's because you are resisting. You're resisting to surrender. And that resistance costs a lot of energy. You can even die by it. And so be careful with resistance. So I spoke already about the consequences of not letting yourself be gettable. Spoke about loneliness. It's also the feeling of emptiness. Yeah, so that's one thing. You can never experience full intimacy. And also there's no peace of mind, because you are always on DEFCON 1 with regard to maybe in the next moment somebody's coming in. That's what the ego thinks. So the question I want to finish up with is, it's an open question. Has ever anybody gotten you? And it's by your resonance to that question that you can see what you want to do with it. Has anybody ever really gotten you? Now, to ease the stress, I have good news as well. If that resonates and you want to play like that, you want to test it, you want to see what's happening, you do not need to put it to the test like for life. Let's say on Monday, choose to be in your relationship 100%. Meaning no backdoors, nothing, and you give in the moment everything you got and you remain it until the day is over. Just one day, what do you have to lose? The next day you can decide again. So you don't need to make a big commitment, which is just overwhelming, because your ego wouldn't allow you to do that, by the way. It's very powerful. Or make an hour, say for this dinner, for the next dinner with my spouse, I'm going to be so fully present that I will withhold nothing, no resistance, nothing. Just play with it, experiment with it. Find out if that what I'm saying is validated by your own personal first-hand experience. So we're going to go into a break, and during the break, I want you to answer the questions in the workbook on page 103, how the compulsion to control and defend is using my life, so that you really are not jumping immediately on the solution, but rather keep creating awareness over your personal strategies, how you occupy space, how you defend your territory, and all the rest of it. So I hope that was eye-opening and exciting for you to receive. And I see you then after the break. There we also will have then the time for sharing and questions and feedback. So enjoy your break for now. And team, please announce the time.
Until 10:30.